Hello everybody, in today's video we will be outlining regional economic integration in under 17 minutes. Before we get started, remember to like and subscribe because it helps promote our channel a whole lot and also ensures that other business students have access to quality content. With that being said, let's begin. Let's begin by defining the key terms. Firstly is regional economic integration. This is where several nations within a specific geographical region begin institutionally converging their economic policies, such as the EU in Europe or the USMCA in North America. Second is regional cooperation. This is notably different from regional economic integration because countries are not actually converging economically, but rather they are introducing measures to link up their infrastructures and improve the management of common resources. For instance, the Pan-Americana Highway across the Americas, or the Belt and Road Initiative between China and Africa. And the final key term for today is regionalism. Regionalism refers to the integration and cooperation between different countries within a specific region. Regionalism may evolve deliberately through political and economic convergence, or it may evolve naturally or informally through a private sector-led rise in intra-regional trade, investment and financial flows. Now, there are 5 different levels of regional economic integration. The lowest level of regional economic integration consists of a free trade area, which, as you can see, is simply a reduction of tariffs between members. One example of a free trade area is the USMCA, which is signed between the US, Mexico and Canada, whereby all of these members have collectively agreed to reduce their tariffs between themselves, enabling favourable trade, essentially. And it's a very low level of integration. It's actually the lowest you can get, and it is also the least complex. Next, we have got customs unions. Now, customs unions differ from free trade areas because they have got common external tariffs. So it is not only the reduction of tariffs between members, but it is also involving common external tariffs. One instance of this is the East African Community, where members of this particular regional economic integration have not only got a reduction of tariffs between themselves, but they've also got common external tariffs. So if you are an external country wishing to trade with a country that's a member of this, then they need to incur the same tariffs irrespective of which country they are trading with, whether it's Ghana, Kenya, or whatever countries are involved. They all impose the same external tariffs to other countries. The next level of regional economic integration is a common market. Now, a common market involves these two stages as well, but it also includes the free movement of capital and services. However, it is not quite as integrated as an economic union because it has different national regulations. One such example of this is the CACM, the Central American Common Market. Now, members of the Central American Common Market, such as Nicaragua or Honduras, may move their capitals and services, so businesses may move products between these countries freely. There is absolutely no tariff imposed upon the movement of capital or services. However, each country does have different national regulations, which could mean that safety standards differ between the countries that are parts of the CACM. However, they do also all have common external tariffs and a reduction of tariffs between the members. So the common market is the next level. And following on from that is the economic union. Now, an economic union is something that has only been achieved once, and that is by the European Union, or otherwise known as the EU. Now, an economic union is a very high level of integration because it has got no barriers for internal trade. It has got the entirely free movement of labour, so this is people, as well as capital and services. It's also got harmonised tax rates and a common monetary and fiscal policy. As we know it exists as the Eurozone. So the euro is the common monetary and fiscal system within the EU. Now, The EU as an economic union also has got common external tariffs. So if you are the US, you are going to incur the same tariff whether you trade with Germany or Greece because they are common. It has also got a reduction of tariffs between the members, which, as we have identified here, is 0. There is no tariff if you want to trade with one European country or one EU country, to another, whether it's Poland to Germany, Germany to Spain, Spain to France. They all have got absolutely no barriers, and so that enables the free movement of capital, services and people. Now, the final level of regional economic integration is a political union. Now, the political union involves all of these former steps, including that of a common government. Now, this is generally unheard of, but the most relevant example which comes to mind is the United Kingdom. Now, the UK not only has got no barriers for internal trade, it's not only got the free movement, harmonised tax rates, common policies fiscally and monetarily, in addition to the common external tariffs and whatnot, but it has also got a common government, and so the laws, the regulations and the policies are shared between all member countries, and it is all voted for democratically. So a political union is the highest level of integration, and that is only really found within the UK, and that is because the UK, of course, is not one country, but it is a country made up of Scotland, Wales, England and Northern Ireland. So yeah, that is the highest level of regional economic integration. Now, it's also worth mentioning that before we go on, as you can see, the more integrated a region becomes, the more complex their agreements become. The reason being is that more integration requires more policies and more regulations to govern the behaviour within these markets. Okay, and now this slide simply sets out to define the differing levels of regional economic integration that exists. So you can see I've outlined the lowest level, the free trade area, all the way through to a political union. All I've done here is identify the key characteristics of these in case you need a definition for your class. Now, it's worth mentioning that I have discussed trade deflection here, but this is something that we're going to discuss in the next slide. So feel free to pause the screen here if you do need any definitions. Otherwise, I'm not going to go through and explain these because the definition is just that and it is provided on the screen. Brilliant. Now, it is worth considering that regional economic integration, as defined here, invokes several potential implications for trade between countries. There could be 3 such implications which are not mutually exclusive, meaning that these implications could occur simultaneously. First is trade creation, which is where new trade is created within the region as a result of integration. For instance, if you owned a clothing line in Germany, you might export to Spain as well, given the lack of tariffs. Here, trade is created that otherwise would not have occurred, thanks to the EU's regional integration. Second, trade diversion. This is when importing from countries external to the region is diverted to regionally integrated members due to the cost savings and efficiencies afforded by lowered tariffs and quotas by internal markets. And lastly is trade deflection. Now, this only occurs within free trade agreements and occurs when non-member countries reroute their exports towards the FTA member countries with the lowest tariffs. But don't worry if all of this has been a little confusing, because I have some very simple picture diagrams on the following slide which explain each of these phenomena very well using the USMCA free trade area as an example. So here we have the 3 key terms. Let's look at trade creation first. When the USA and Mexico entered the USMCA, which was previously known as NAFTA, new bilateral trade was created in the car industry because the US exported their car production from regions such as Detroit into Mexico, and in doing this, the USMCA created new trade. So you can see that the potential outcome of such integration as a result of the USMCA has been trade creation between the US and Mexico. Next is trade diversion. Prior to the US joining the USMCA, it used to source its clothing and textiles from poor European countries such as Poland and Czechoslovakia. However, upon joining the USMCA, it became cheaper to import Mexican textiles as there were lowered tariffs. This diverted trade away from Europe and towards Mexico. So here, trade has been diverted from other countries into member countries of the USMCA. Now, lastly is trade deflection. Now, this only occurs in free trade agreements like the USMCA and does not occur in the customs unions, economic unions, or so forth, only in the free trade areas and the free trade agreements like the USMCA. So, since trade deflection is when an external country deflects trade from specific member countries towards those with the lowest tariffs, I have used the example of Japan as the external country, as this is actually a real-world example of what happened upon the signing of NAFTA. So let's say Japan wanted to trade with the US. They would find that they have to incur a 10% tariff on their exported products, whereas Mexico only charged a 5% tariff. So rather than exporting directly to the US, many Japanese businesses began trading with Mexico to incur its lowered 5% tariff, which then enabled these companies to leverage the free trade agreement and export products from Mexico to the US, essentially bypassing the US's additional 5% tariff. This is simply a short diagram depicting regional economic integration in practice. Now, as you can see, it is prevalent throughout the entire world and is very common as it enables preferential trade between regionally based countries. Now we move on to the final section of today's video, looking at the positive and negative aspects of regional economic integration. Beginning with positive. Regional economic integration creates cross-border trade. It increases a nation's growth by raising export demand, such as when Poland had their exportation increase after joining the EU. It improves efficiency for multinational enterprises who can operate across borders, such as putting low-cost labour in Mexico, research and development in California, and manufacturing in Canada, which was available to firms after the completion of the USMCA free trade area. It enables more cooperation and unification within a region. Did you know that the whole point of regional integration within Europe was to prevent Germany from starting another world war by integrating them economically into their neighbouring countries and creating a mutual dependency and reliance? This is because economic integration forces countries to cooperate and to unify. Next is that regional economic integration affords greater opportunities for MNEs to achieve economies of scale and grow tremendously. And lastly is that regional integration exposes domestic businesses to greater competition and technical information, which in turn results in enhanced innovation. However, regional economic integration also induces some negatives, such as regional protectionism, whereby regions become overtly nationalistic, such as the businesses of Europe only wanting to do business with other European firms due to the EU, or North American firms remaining within North America due to the USMCA. Next is that trade blocs undermine international multilateralism. Multilateralism is the trade between multiple countries, but regional integration discourages this and instead encourages bilateralism, which is the trade between two countries. Thus, trade blocs do not encourage true international trade, but rather regional and quite limited international trade, limited geographically. Next is that regional integration also results in redundancies for menial jobs in developed countries. For example, After the UK joined the EU, many factory jobs were sent out to developing countries within Europe, such as Poland or Romania. Likewise, when the USA joined NAFTA and the USMCA, many of the United States menial jobs went to Mexico. However, developing countries also lose out through a phenomena known as brain drain, which is when the brainy, intelligent workers within developing countries leave their homes to do creative work and intellectual research in more developed and advanced nations, such as Mexican lawyers, students, and doctors choosing to move to the US for better salaries and research opportunities. And now the final drawback of regional integration is a loss of national autonomy, liberty, and democracy, as large-scale and very important decisions regarding national laws and regulations can be decided by faraway, unelected bureaucrats. This is one of the fundamental reasons behind the UK ending up with its withdrawal from the European Union. So, in summary, regional economic integration consists of 5 levels. These are free trade areas, custom unions, common markets, economic unions, and political unions. Regional economic integration can result in trade creation, trade diversion, or trade deflection. Regional economic integration is in practice globally, from South America to Oceania all the way through to Europe. It is a truly global phenomenon, and there are both positive and negative aspects of regional economic integration, which may implicate a nation's development, the competitiveness of MNEs, employment prospects, and social attitudes. That is all from today's video. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you found it useful, and if you have got any recommendations for concepts you'd like to see covered or featured in one of our next videos, then please leave a comment down below. Thank you very much, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.